You're back on Starting Gate. I'm Sean Yao. BPOs, as we know, are one of the country's cash cows, arming a chunk of the young Filipino workforce with disposable income that's contributed to our robust economic growth. But a recent Talon study shows the Philippines falling behind China and India as a top outsourcing destination. Now, I'm pretty sure the sector will not yield our competitiveness so easily. So what's the game plan? Let's ask Benedict Hernandez, chairman of the Contact Center Association of the Philippines, that question. Benedict, hello. Thank you for joining us. So there has been, a lot of external threats to the sector. Politics, we have geopolitics and all that stuff. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the internal threats.
Right.
I'm talking about disruptions. You're calling it digital disruptions in customer relations. Can you run us through some of the biggest and most impending threats?
So a lot of the discussions right now you see that is disrupting our industry, as well as, quite frankly, any other industry, whether it's media, it's banking, it's telecommunications, and across the world, not just the Philippines, is digital. And then you hear a lot of the impact of automation to all forms of jobs, the impact of artificial intelligence in all forms of jobs. And then you have other things that are going on, which is analytics, the movement of our businesses to the cloud-based platform. So all of these technologies are happening. There's two things that you need to keep in mind when this is happening. So one is the jobs themselves are changing. It's an opportunity to actually be ahead of that curve. And the real job for us is really how do we prepare our workforce so we can continue to be very successful and thrive as the jobs are being changed by these technologies.
Hold that thought. So you mentioned staying ahead of the curve. I like that. I want to know, is the Philippines really ahead of the curve? Because there is this Talon study, they call it the top 50 digital nations, and the Philippines just now ranks third behind China and India. Now, they do acknowledge that the Philippines is still the undisputed leader in customer service, which is what CCAP is concerned with specifically. But they also acknowledge that we are most susceptible to these digital threats. So what do you guys have to say about that?
Well, the Contact Center Association of the Philippines have actually worked together to make sure that we've contained or maintained our #1 position worldwide. We've been the #1 preferred destination of the world for entrusting customers in the contact center services area. So we've been doing that for the last 7 years. So one of our key assets is the fact that clients worldwide actually entrust their customers with the Filipino workforce. And the uniqueness about that is the service authenticity that's embedded in the Filipino culture. That's very difficult to replicate and change, and that will continue.
But can you automate that?
That's the one that's very difficult to automate, right? Which is the sincerity of the Filipinos in
the
terms
human
of service.
touch.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what we do need to make sure that we invest in is really original or intellectual property when it comes to technology innovation. So a big part of that study that you're quoting will say that the new metric that they've added in the ranking is the startup environment that the countries have. And the Philippines does have a vibrant startup ecosystem, but we need to be catching up in that because we need to actually be a leader in introducing new innovation in the field. Now we've been a phenomenal user and adapter of innovation in the Philippines, but we can actually make a more vibrant startup ecosystem so we can produce our own intellectual property in that area.
And those are, of course, more high net value, right? So let's go back to artificial intelligence, robotics, chatbots, and all of these. I mean, the scary part is a lot of people are scared that these could take their jobs still, especially if you're on the less skilled set of the service, right? So you guys actually have taken the other road and you've chosen to call it a revolution, which leads me to think you don't think it's that much of a threat, which leads me then to think that you have a game plan. Can you talk us through that game
Absolutely.
plan?
So we do have a 5-year roadmap that we actually published last year together with our partner association, IBPAP. This is looking at the impact of technology and the impact of other factors to our industry over the next 5 years. So we did already factor in the fact that some of the jobs or processes of the jobs will be automated and artificial intelligence could take over some of those other processes. Despite that, though, the global market is still growing. Despite that, though, the Philippines is still a preferred destination. So when you look at what we're gaining in terms of market share and what's going to be automated, we're still growing at an 8% every year rate. We're still going to be adding net 70,000 jobs in the Philippines over the next 5 years. So our 750,000 jobs in the contact center area from last year, our forecast is it'll take us to about 1.2 million jobs by 2022, where our roadmap ends. The key there is to make sure that our workforce is able to invest in reskilling, that we continue to work with government and the educational system to introduce new skill sets that are relevant to capture that market, because the market demands are changing because of technology. So that's really the main work that we have in front of us.
Actually, yes, I was reading your report, and it did mention this term, upskilling.
Upskilling.
So it means like some sort of an upgrade, right? More abstract thinking, problem solving, critical thinking, all of these things. How are we doing in the context of upskilling our workers?
Well, one of the things that's an advantage of the Philippines, back to how we position across the world, is really the collaborative ecosystem we have in the country between our industry, our partner sectors, the educational system, as well as the government. Now, over the years, we managed to actually work together and identify what are the relevant skills in the future, and can we actually create curriculum, for example, in the university that they can offer to actually prepare the future workforce. For instance, a couple of years ago, we rolled out a curriculum driven by the industry called the Service Management Program. We're upgrading that to Service Management Plus. A couple of years ago, the industry developed and introduced business analytics in the curriculum as well. And what we find is that every time we work with the university and the government around, let's introduce more courseware in artificial intelligence, in data security, in cloud, there's just an active collaborative atmosphere there that we need to play to our advantage.
Are enrollments really hot? I mean, do you see a lot of students signing up for these courses?
I think what's interesting is when you watch what happened to the K+12 curricula, the government, rightfully so, is focusing on STEM. No? There's a large enrollment in the STEM program for the grade 11 and grade 12 that are coming in. So I do feel that this is going to continue to be a drum beating exercise for the ecosystem to get the kids excited about technology,
and
get excited about math, get excited about engineering and science, no? Because that's really going to be one of the fundamental things you got to do to be relevant for these jobs in the future.
Yes, upskilled jobs.
Absolutely. Everybody needs to be digitally literate and enabled, because the work is all going to be transformed by technology.
That's true. Bendick, I want to call your attention to this graphic. I got this from the Philippine Statistics Authority. We'll show you BPO investments falling. Now, just today, the Inquirer actually noted how much they've fallen by. So very clearly, 2016 figures are the higher ones, and the 2017 figures are the lower ones. This is the first quarter, and that's the decline in the second quarter. Does this bother you at all?
Well, this is something that the PEZA had been sharing to the industry. And what they were saying is this is also partly the effect of some of the potential investments waiting on the sidelines, given our country and the United States have new administrations. There's different pronouncements, so there's a bit of a waiting on the sidelines. What's great is that with all of our existing clients, we continue to have them in the Philippines. They continue to grow in the Philippines. We do want to start seeing that new investments and new companies actually come at the same rate. It's still growing. It's not that it's not growing. But the rate of growth is being tempered right now. So our anticipation is, as the scenario becomes clearer to a lot of the investors, will still continue to pick up on the work.
All right, we're going to have to leave it at that. But you do have an event that proposes to actually discuss this thing more in depth, and it's running, I think, for a 13th year.
Right. This is our 13th conference as a Contact Center Association of Philippines. It's called Contact Islands. We're doing it on October 11 and 12 at the Shangri-La Boracay, where we gather thought leaders and leaders of our industry around how digital is disrupting our industry. But the focus now and the currency now of the industry is going to be focused on customer experience. With technology or without technology, there's one thing that's going to remain constant, which is how the Philippines can become the superior delivery location for customer experience for our clients. So the thing is, as we digitize the way we do work for them, how are we still making sure that we deliver the best customer experience?
All right. On that note, thank you very much, Benedict Hernandez, Chairman of the CCAP. We're going to pause